Yeah, this is a video on parasitic draw and how to check it, how to find it. And you're going to need, well, I'm just going to show some of the tools you could use. But, and I'm doing a close-up so you can read the dials, because later on I might say things, but you can't see what the settings are. So there's two kinds of amp meters that I'll be using here. There's the clamp type, and there's a type where you just plug in the wire and you touch 2 points. Let me just start with that. So if you're doing inline amp readings, current readings, flow, it means like the amount of water, for instance. So here's the battery, here's the negative cable. You would disconnect the negative cable, you would plug into your COM port, black, and you would plug in this meter, you would either plug into 10 amp or milliamp, MA. In that case, you would run one wire from here, and one wire from either here or here to there. So what's really doing is the current is going through the meter back to the battery. Now the danger of this is, well, first of all, you don't want to be in the middle of the draw. You don't want current flowing through you. But with a meter, there's a limit to it. For instance, it says fused. So you could either plug it into 10 amp, when you're doing inline, you could plug it into 10 amp or a milliamp. Well, if your car is off, the chances are you're not drawing more than 10 amps unless you're really leaking. But so you would start at the highest setting. You would plug into here, 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 here. Now, if you got a reading that was below 1 amp up here, again, if you're using 10 amp on this meter, you'd go to 10 amp. If you're reading below 1, then you would pull your lead out and go to here, into milliamp, and then you would switch this to milliamp. Anyway, I had to stop the video. Now on this meter, the induction meter, and I'm not sure that everybody knows this because I didn't know it. If you read these settings here, it says 1 millivolt equals 100 milliamps. So what that's saying is you're going to be reading voltage on the meter. In other words, you're not going to be plugging in, you're going to be going to here. You're going to be setting it on volts. You're going to be plugging this into the standard. Plugging this, I forgot to move the camera. You'll be plugging these into here, into the voltage. Again, you're on here, you're not on the amp readings. So what this is saying is 1 millivolt times 100. Whatever you're reading here, you're going to do times 100. Or if you have it on where it is right now, 1 times 10. So whatever you're reading, you're going to do times 10. There's also a 0 button to 0 it. There's also an off button. The power. Let's see, we'll turn this on. I must have took the battery out. So that's just, again, this is just a close-up to explain this. Okay, just to explain this a little bit further, because this can be confusing. So let's say you got a reading of 10 on here. So if it was 10 millivolts times 100, 10 times 100 is 1,000. 1,000 is 1 amp. Millivolts are 1,000th of an amp for some reason. I'll clear this. Now if you had 10 amps on, or if you had 10 millivolts on this setting, it'd be 10 times 10. 10 times 10. That's a tenth of an amp. Now, the reason this matters is that the more modern cars with a computer, they're always drawing some amperage. And supposedly it's in the books, but I don't know where it is. But like what I read, between 25 and 50 could be normal. But I would think on the Trans Am, I got two cars I'm going to be working on, the Trans Am and the Ranger. The Trans Am shouldn't be pulling any amperage. At least I don't think so. But the Ranger could be pulling 25 to 50. It depends. In other words, you've heard them say, don't disconnect your battery because everything will go dead. Yeah, this is a continuation of that first part of the video a couple days ago. I'm going to try to explain what I got going on here. But we're working towards the parasitic draw. But the issue is I need to know which one of these meters is working, how to work it, and so on. So let me try to go over that. I'm going to roll in here. So what we have here, well, first of all, let me say this. I was going over this millivolt amp clamp in the last video. Well, it turns out that I started having a feeling this wasn't working. This is about, I don't know, 10 to 15 years old. So let me just go through a few things. And I might make a few mistakes in my terms or something. It's not that easy to make these videos. There's so many meters here and wires. But anyway, so what I got here, to start with, I needed some accurate power supply. So we're going to call that a battery, but an accurate battery. And it's got voltage and it's got milliamps. Okay, so that's the battery. The light is representing the car, or in this case, it's representing, there's a short to ground. It's not really a short to ground, but that's what we're saying. Usually you wouldn't have a light on, you'd just have a short. So let me just start. So, again, with the battery cable, you have two cables. One is going to the ground of the car. One is going to the key switch, or to all the fuses. So in this case, we're going from the key. Let me just turn this off. So let me go a little bit further before I do this. We really have no amp draw right now, so it's kind of representing a leak, and it's not. But anyway, so return the key on. The red wire, again, I got a bunch of different color wires, it makes it confusing. Return the key on, the light goes on. Well, again, this is a little bit confusing, but what I have hooked up here is an inline an inline amp test, and a magnetic amp clamp draw test at the same time. If that is clear so far. So again, we're going to the key. We're going to the light in the car. Going to the meter. The power is flowing through the meter. That way I can read what the current is. And it's going through this clamp. I got two clamps. It's going through this clamp and this clamp. And it's just to toss this in. It's on two different color cables, but it's still the same flow, if you can follow that. And it's going back to the battery. through the ground. Hope I said all that right. So again, I have to toss something else in here. So we're reading milliamps. So if I I'm just going to toss this in. I don't know if this has anything to do with this, but if I turn the voltage up, I'm going to turn the voltage up. Remember, it says 520 on milliamps. I'm going to turn the voltage up. I'm going to reach over here and turn the voltage up. It's at 16 amps now. Notice the light got brighter. And the amp draw went up to 586. Now we're going to draw it. We're going to lower it back down to. Again, I'm just pretending like the car's not on, which will probably be about 12.8 on a charged battery, somewhere around there. But anyway, so the amp draw in line with the inline meter is 0.53. That's 0.52. I might have trouble reading this, but everything's in I don't know how to say it, but let's just put it this way. It's 53 and it's 52, okay? Milliamps. So now we go to this meter. Let me take this off. Now this is the meter I just picked up. I'm going to take it away from the magnetic field. I'm going to zero it. It's on amps. Again, this is not the type that you plug into the voltage. Okay. This is a standalone amp clamp, a low current amp clamp. I'm going to put it on here. It's reading 50. So that's reading 50. Forget the last number. 50. 52, 52. So this is really pretty close for a magnetic field clamp. So what we're really drawing is 521, which is, remember, 1,000 millivolts equals 1 volt. 1 amp, I'm sorry. Again, might make some few word mistakes. So that is drawing a half an amp. So these meters are working, okay? This is the inline meter, this is the clamp meter, it's working. But now we get over to here. This meter is not working. I think it was working, but I don't know what happened. But I started getting all these random readings in it. So anyway, so right now it's off. The meter's on, it's 10 volts. Remember, this is a conversion from millivolts to amps. I think I went over that in the last video. So I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to turn it on to 1 millivolt equals 10 amps. It's not working. Put it to the next one. 1 millivolt equals 100 milliamps. Now, you might be saying you didn't zero it, so I'm going to take it off. It's hard to do this with one hand. Get it away from the field. Zero it. See, nothing's happening. There's no reading. Let's see if I get this back on. Put the camera down. No reading. This clamp is not working. I just wanted to say that I took this apart. There's no fuses in this, okay? That might not make any sense right now, but there's no fuses and it's just a battery. But anyway, it's not working. I'm going to turn this off. I just can't use it. So again, I forgot what I said, but going back to the car, if I didn't already say this, when I tested, when the oil pressure gauge wasn't working, I needed a way to test it. So I hooked up a hard line to get and read off a dial. That's basically what I'm doing here. I'm trying to work out, is anything working here? Well, we know that's working, and that's working. They're all saying the same reading, or really close. In fact, this was 510, 5.2, that's almost 10, 520. That's, what, 10 thousandths off? So, so now I'm not going to use that, obviously, but I am going to use this. Now this is a low, if I didn't say this already, this is a low current amp reader. You could also turn it on to voltage and plug in some cables and read it like a meter. It's just different. Okay. Now I got one in this box here. I don't know if I went over this. This is a high amp meter. This will not work. It's not sensitive enough. So what didn't I cover here? Oh, I blew this meter out. I had it, I guess this is a warning here. When you're doing the amperage meeting, I blew the fuse out. Because I was using the conversion from volts to amps, I turned this to voltage. Remember, this one was in line. Well, this was in line. I turned it to voltage instead of amps, and I blew out the fuse. You gotta be really careful so I can get a replacement fuse. But anyway, again, this is going to continue. I'm just kind of doing it in depth, and I'm learning as I go. I like to do new things, but so now I don't need to be tied to the meter. I can use this. Again, there's other ways to test the parasitic drop, but if I was doing this every day, this would be my first tool. I'd go and see how many amps I'm drawing. Now again, you notice the decimal point on here, it's less than an amp. It's 509. It's half an amp. Now if you remember, I said anything over 25 to 50 thousandths of an amp, or I don't know what that is. Let's see, 50 thousandths, 50,000. I don't know what that is. I can't think of that in my head. I think like a fifth of an amp is no good. Anyway, I hope that didn't confuse everybody. So that's right. Oh, if you're wondering what's going on up here, again, I have a power supply. I bought this, I don't know, 4 years ago to check things. It's a Dr. Meter DC power supply PS305DM. It's good for checking things. What I have here is an oscilloscope. I haven't really learned how to use that right yet. I haven't needed it. I got a waveform generator so I can practice with the oscilloscope. A soldering iron. So sometimes when I get burned out, I come up here and work on this kind of stuff. Now, the lighter was burned out. I'm just going to toss this in. This lighter was burned out, and I put a new element in. I don't know if I did a video on that, but with this here, I was able to check my lighter just because there's something to do. Put voltage in the ground, and this lighter now works. But that's the kind of stuff you can do. I can try voltage drops. I can do almost anything from right here. So again, this is going to be a continuation when I have time. Right now I'm waiting for the new gauges to put in my car, then I can close the inside of the car back up. It's kind of holding me up. I need to finish that, but in the meantime, I'm getting ready for the next thing, and then I'm going to go into some other stuff. Once you determine that you have a draw, where do you go next? Well, like I said, first of all, you got to make sure you have something that's working if you're going to start at the battery. Interested in getting these kind of toys. See, it says it's a low current AC/DC clamp. The other one that I was showing with the big claws is a high amperage. So you could check like wiring at home and so on. But remember, you can only go over the negative or the positive. If you go over both of them, they'll cancel each other out. It'll read them to 0.